signing with the Toronto Blue Jays was a huge news in Korea. The Blue Jays organization made a huge commitment to Hyunjin. Only 4 games. We still have a lot of games left, but what's your first impression on Hyunjin's performance in 2020?
One word comes to mind, Daniel, and it's ace, because the Blue Jays have not had that. And you think the news was big in Korea when the Blue Jays signed him. It was huge in Canada too. And that's one thing that the Blue Jays have here in Canada. It's unique because it's Canada's only team, and they have the whole country behind them. And it was one thing to go out and acquire a couple of veteran starting pitchers to kind of boost the rotation. It was a real weakness of theirs last season. But when they landed Ryu, everybody knew, like, wow, okay, so they're in it for now to try to compete more, but it's a 4-year deal, so hopefully you can get a few good years out of them. And when you land a guy that caliber, it's kind of that final stamp. I know for me, following the team, it was a wow moment. I couldn't believe it because the Blue Jays don't land a lot of top free agents like that, especially pitchers. So when you land a guy like that, now you know he's at the top of your rotation for the next 4 years, which is great. And then you start filling in after. And of course, you know, there are a lot of good young arms coming along for the Blue Jays, but they weren't quite ready yet. So they signed Tanner Roark and Chase Anderson. Shoemaker was coming back from injury. So you have this veteran-laden rotation now. So it started slow for Ryu, especially through this pandemic. And then they went to summer camp and coming out. And I think he looked a lot like a lot of pitchers and a lot of hitters have looked in baseball so far. It's just a bit of a slow start. I think it was especially true a few starts ago. It was in Washington where he wasn't sharp. The velocity was down, and it was peculiar because you just had to wonder. My fear was something was wrong with him. I was certainly hoping there was no arm issue because that's what it looked like. The way he was kind of laboring, the velocity wasn't there. But then the next start in Atlanta, it was just, he did a total 180 and he was fabulous. The velocity was coming back a bit. Heavy change-up usage. And that's when we really saw who he was, the way he runs that fastball and cutter in on righties, and then uses the changeup down and away. But then in his last start against Miami, just fantastic. Changed it up a little bit, and I love the fact that he can do that. So now he went a little bit more with the fastball, a little bit less with the changeup. So if I'm a hitter or a team now facing Ryu next, you really don't know what he's going to do, and that's what makes him so special. So with the velocity back to where it should be, the way he pitches into righties with the four-seam fastball and the cutter to set up that changeup down and away, and it's just a fabulous pitch. I mean, it seems like you could tell a hitter it's coming, and they're still not going to be able to hit. He got hurt with the home run against the Marlins in a 3-2 changeup, probably up a little bit more than he wanted, but man, when he's down and away to those righties, it's virtually unhittable. And I think he's back on track based on that last start against Miami.
All right, 2 things. Hyunjin used changeup. It's not a secret anymore. Everyone knows that it's gonna come. In certain accounts, we know that it's gonna come. And second thing, you mentioned his velocity, 90, 91, maybe 92 occasionally. In today's standards, that's below average, below. Those 2 things considered, how is he able to do what he's doing right now?
Daniel, as a former catcher, we talk so much, not we, but in baseball, people talk so much about velocity and how important it is. And I think there are 3 critical things to pitching. There's velocity, there's location, and there's movement. But velocity is not number 1 for me. Location is number 1, and that's what he does very, very well. Any hitter will tell you, any major league hitter will tell you, they would rather see 98 miles per hour right down the middle or out over the plate rather than 90 on the edges of the zone or coming in on your hands and then change up away. So that's how he does it. His location, and he hasn't been perfect yet. I think he would admit that he still wants to get better with this command. And when he does, he's going to be really fun to watch. But location is critical. Movement, of course, is important. But when he's on the edges of the zone, it makes it very difficult. The other thing I talk about as a catcher throughout my career, what I learned very early, and it's the 3 kind of pillars of calling a game, it's moving the ball up and down. And he can do that with the elevated fastball and the changeup down. Change the speeds back and forth, which is with the fastball cutter combination and the changeup, and then in and out. He does all 3 of those things very well, and that's what makes it very difficult on hitters. So I throw the velocity thing out the window. What Ryu does is he pitches. He defines the art of pitching, because the art of pitching for me is doing all of those things, making it very difficult on hitters, but he keeps you off balance, and the ability to get ground balls does that because he gets you up front, a lot of soft contact. He really is a fun guy to watch in 2020 because we hear so much about velocity now. We hear about young kids coming up and all these showcase events, and it's all about the radar gun and how hard you throw. And we have one in Toronto right now in Nate Pearson. He's very young. He throws almost 100 miles an hour, but he's off to a slow start. He hasn't had a lot of fine-tuning in the minor leagues, but it goes to show you that velocity is not everything. Pitching is very important, and that's what Hyunjin does so well.
One of the critics, some of the critics have said that, well, Hyunjin pitched in Dodger Stadium, which is a pitcher-friendly park, National League West, other than maybe Coors Field, much easier division. Now he's in American League East. Given with COVID-19, the schedule's all messed up, but he's gonna have to face the Yankees and Tampa Bay's a really tough team. What does he need to make any kind of adjustment, any changes in order for him to, I guess, continue his success at American League East?
Well, first of all, I think it will be a challenge because, in the National League, you have the pitcher batting ninth and usually weaker bottom of the order. And a lot of these American League teams are generally based more around power, and especially in the AL East. We know what the Yankees can do. Boston, not quite the same team anymore, but still some pretty good bats in that lineup. But I don't think he has to change a thing because based on what I've seen so far and the way he pitches, and I keep using the word pitches because that's what he does. He defines the art of pitching by moving the ball in and out and changing speeds. He is just a master of, I think, soft contact and keeping hitters off balance. And I don't care how good a hitters you are, and I can't wait till he pitches against the Yankees because it'll be the ultimate matchup of a bunch of good hitters with power against a guy that is going to try to offset that power. How do you offset the power? You get off the barrel. And you do that by coming in, you do that by going away and changing speeds, and that is going to be fun to watch for me. Hyunjin Ryu against the New York Yankees. I look forward to it.
All right. Speaking of the New York Yankees, all right, let's just turn back the clock a little bit. You're a catcher for the Blue Jays right now. Hyunjin's on the mound. You're catching in. Aaron Judge is at bat. What's going to be your game plan? What's going to be the first pitch? What's the first pitch that you're going to call?
He's getting a four-seam fastball about chest high right in here early in the game, so he knows that I might come in there. Because if he knows I might come in there for the whole game, for 2 or 3 and 4 at-bats, I've got him thinking at least that, okay, I got to be careful in here. He can't get out here so much now because ultimately that changeup's probably going to be the winning pitch against a guy like Judge. But very important, especially with a big guy like that, to get in there. And not just the four-seam fastball, but that cutter. Because there are times when that cutter can look like the four-seam fastball middle in, but then it can run in on his hands. And once again, we're getting off that barrel. And oftentimes those big guys, you don't necessarily want to throw off speed out over the plate because they've got so much plate coverage. But with Hyunjin's changeup, I think that can be an exception because it's an exceptional pitch. But most importantly, you have to show them inside with that four-seamer and the cutter so that now they've got to think about the entire plate. It makes it harder to hit.
All right, Joe, thank you so much for your time. I hope we could do this more often, and stay safe, and I hope to see you soon in the near future.
Hey, my pleasure, Daniel. Nice to meet you in Florida. We'll talk again soon.